Hi there, I'm Asaf Avidan, presenting my new album, Anagnorisis, that is out now. Lost Horse. I do not know how wolves became an integral part of my topography, but they did last year. And it started while I was adopting a hybrid between a wolf and a dog. It's called a Czechoslovakian wolf dog. And we were in love for a while, and then it ended up attacking me, tearing up my arm, tearing off my ear, tearing my thighs. It was a very violent attack, and I didn't believe I would be able to use my hands again or play music again. So that's how the year started, with a wolf eating me alive. And then some months later, a pack of wolves reached the place that I keep my horses in Italy. And they chased one of the horses called Ariadne and into a cliff, and she fell from the cliff into the Adriatic Sea and was never found again. And we searched and searched for many days, and the fourth day of search that I just kind of gave up, I went back home. I opened the notebook, and I knew that I have to outlet all this emotion, and I just wrote the words "lost horse" in capital letters. And I stared at that notebook for I don't know how long, and I just realized that I'm crying. And not just crying, but weeping, just bawling. And it was evidently clear that I wasn't crying only for the loss of Ariadne, my horse, but for every loss I experienced in my life. The accumulation of corpses and ghosts that you carry on with you as you get older. So yeah, it gets heavy. And so this became a song about lost love, lost versions of myself, the entropy happening in our existence. Yeah. 900 Days is, together with Lost Horse, they are the only songs that I really wanted to make about a relationship. I didn't really want to make any song in this album about a relationship because I do that very often, and I felt I had enough of that. And I really wanted to dig way deeper. I always use relationship as a jumping board into self-introspection and philosophizing, but this time I really wanted to not even start with that. I really just wanted to go in there. But apparently I had some anger issues and some regrets, and and I needed to outlet it, kind of like a, I don't know, airing the opening the windows to air things out. And only once I was able to put those out of the way, I could really get into this quiet nuances that became the rest of the album. So it was important for me to start with those two songs as kind of transitioning from Study on Falling, which was about a melodramatic, polyamorous relationships of many, many, many things. And I just kind of, it mellows down into the album. Earth Odyssey is obviously a tribute to Bowie, Space Oddity, and it's very Bowie-esque in how I sing it and how I present it. But again, it's this idea, a long time before the lockdown started and we faced the mirror of powerlessness as human beings. I was going through this year. I took a year off, and I self-isolated before it was fashionable. In the worst timing ever, I self-isolated for an entire year in a kind of country house in Italy, and I made it a recording studios, and I was trying to write songs that translated this nebula of a lot of different thoughts, but all they had in common was this idea of meaninglessness, futility, finitude, and powerlessness. And Earth Odyssey became kind of like a hymn, like a praise to those feelings as part of the human spectrum of emotions that we must face if we're honest human beings. No Words is about the futile attempt to try to translate myself into structure. there's a thing, an ironic thing that happens as the more you dive deep, the more you strip down layers of yourself and look into yourself, instead of finding the core of who you are, a complete structure that can define you, you find more and more abstract forms. You find this nebula that I was talking about, this amorphous, ever-changing, expanding and shrinking and mutating and multitudinous and sometimes complementary and sometimes contradictory, but it's always moving. It's almost kind of like, in particle physics where you have a piano and then that's just what it is. I see a piano. Then you look at it closer with a magnifying glass and you see some more. And then you look at it with a microscope and you see suddenly molecules. And then you put it under an electron microscope and then a collider, a particle collider, and you start realizing the fundamental structure of the universe. And then, oh my fucking God, it's chaos. The fundamental structure of the universe is a huge statistical mess. And that's kind of what I felt going in the search of myself. And No Words is kind of about that this, how do you translate structureless formlessness with structure? And the sadness of not being able to. Anagnorisis is obviously the title, the titular song of the album. And I was reading Poetics by Aristotle, and I didn't mean to stumble upon this word, but I stumbled upon this word and I wrote it down, and I just, like in the middle of the night, I got up realizing that this is the album. Like Anagnorisis, for those of you who probably don't know, it's a term coined by Aristotle about Greek plays, drama, and it's the moment that a character realizes their true identity by finding a new detail of truthness. And so that search that I was describing in No Words, that nebula of selves, I kept on hitting that wall of thinking that I don't have enough talent or patience or something, or honesty to find my true shape and describe it outwards. And then when I was reading that and I realized how well it works in narrative and in movies and everything, my eureka moment, my anagnorisis, was the realization that there is no anagnorisis in reality, in chaotic life. And so I use it almost ironically as there is no one structure. There is no self to be explored and known. There's just a self to get lost in if you dare to dive deep inside. Lazarus was the last, I think it was the last miracle that Jesus Christ did. He resurrected a guy named Lazarus, brought him back from the dead. Rock of Lazarus is my heart. It's my rock that is constantly being regurgitated and rebirthed back into this life. And I had this image of what would happen, like did Lazarus come back just as he was? Did he go to sleep, wake up, and he was just Lazarus? Or did he take a part of death with him when he woke up? Can you undo death when you come back to life? And so the song is structured into 3 parts. The first part is explaining why the heart reached its cementified state. Then there is this B part, chorus part, that is kind of like the angelic voices bringing back majestically the heart to life. And then there is the result, which is these, I often imagine like the Thriller zombie thing, just these hearts, these battered, scarred hearts, just not really wanting. They're just zombies. They get back to life because they must, but they're neither dead or alive. And I like that image of, that's sometimes how I feel with my little heart. Wildfire. So in the search of characters inside me to give them voices, to try to create a mosaic, or not a mosaic, but points of saturated colors, and then hopefully you as the listener can somehow create a line between them, almost like a star constellation. I was looking for these points these different characters or different characters inside me. And I keep on stumbling into this female, young, destructive woman. Every time I studied cinema and animation, so I'm very visual in the way I think. And I think a lot about David Lynch, like a Fire Walk With Me kind of thing, like a red convertible and a girl driving recklessly with her hair. And somewhere in the background, there's like a burning town, and did she burn the town? What is she? And I see this image all the time. And I've met this woman before in my songs, in Visions of Gomorrah, Conspiratory Visions of Gomorrah. She is the wife of Lot, the woman that the angels tell her, we are going to save you, but don't look at the destruction. And of course she has to look at the destruction, and she turns into stone. She is the whore of Babylon, which is the symbolism of corruptness and destruction. But what it really is men being afraid of women, because women create life and men destroy life, as a generalization. And so, yeah, I felt I for the first time, I didn't project her upon the girl I was with. I embraced her as a part of me, somebody that is addicted to destruction and believes that destruction has to do with creativity, with creation, a cycle, a loop. In Different Skies, I keep on thinking about, those cave drawings, cave paintings, specifically about the hand imprint, and I remember reading somewhere, I don't know if it's true, but it's a woman's hand. And I think about this woman putting the hand on the cave and, blowing red paint on it and taking off her hand. Some of the paint is on her hand, some of the paint is on the wall, and there's a perfect imprint of her. And I think every single thing is just everything that we create, not just art. Of course, art is just sublimations of that, but everything, the gods that we create, the isms, the ideals that we create are all just a sublimation of that, because what it really is in its foundation is trying to imprint yourself upon an uncaring universe. And we build upon this fear of invisibility, of meaninglessness, of smallness, of finitude. We build upon this, all these great ideas, all the human endeavors, evil and good, have been about that, in that fear. And In Different Skies is just another look about that, about how we are all just archetypes of that initial need. Darkness song. I don't think this needs a lot of explanation. It is what it is. It's a darkness song. It's a song dedicated to my darkness and embracing it. But this whole album is about accepting the multitude of endless selves that you have in you. And one of them is this darkness. I'm very wary of people telling me how good they feel. When I ask somebody, how are you doing? And they say, I'm doing good. My life is amazing. Like, I always know that they have the worst lives possible. Like the need to blind yourself to the honesty, which is, there's some things that are good, but there's deep chasms of endless voids within all of us inherently, because we are conscious beings and we know that we will die and we will end, and everything will end, not just us, but our children and their children and their children. And then the planet will get sucked into the sun, and the sun will one day die. And then also the universe will cool down and entropy will finally win. And all we are, we are worms building sandcastles in the middle of a storm. And yet these sandcastles and our endeavor to build them is beautiful, because we are defeating entropy, even if it's for a small moment. And so I think the darkness has you cannot feel the hope and the beauty and the triumph without realizing where it comes from, this darkness. So this is me saying thank you to that darkness. The last song of the album is I See Her, Don't Be Afraid. And from all the songs of the album, this is my favorite, not because I think it's a better song than any of them, but because this is what I would love to feel always. I had this tiny moment of peace within myself. And for the first, I'm going to getting teary. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. For the first time, I was calm. I saw her. I saw that entropy that I'm talking about, the endless storm, the death that was before me, the death that I came from and the death that I will go to, and this endlessness and endlessness together. And I was okay with it. And that was such a beautifully serene and surprising moment for me that I wrote this song in like 2 minutes and sang it to myself. And I think it's now kind of a lullaby that I would sing to myself when I am afraid. So that's a good song to close this album with, because that is kind of the closure I would want to finish with.